Have you ever watched someone get judged before anyone even took the time to know them? Maybe you've been that person. Maybe you've walked into a room and felt eyes measuring your worth before you spoke a single word. Maybe you've been overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed because of where you came from, what you looked like, or what people assumed about you. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever been rejected by people who never really knew you? Because today's story is about a man who had everything money could buy. And a woman nobody wanted to believe in. It's about the choice that changed both of their lives forever. And why a billionaire risked everything to stand beside the one woman everyone else rejected. The city skyline glowed beneath the midnight sky. From the top floor of a 70-story glass tower, Alexander Reed stood alone. At 38 years old, Alexander was one of the youngest billionaires in America. His technology company had transformed industries. Business magazines called him a visionary. Financial networks called him unstoppable. Investors called him a genius. Employees called him demanding. And millions of strangers online called him lucky. But none of those people knew the truth. Alexander was lonely. Painfully lonely. Every morning he woke up in a penthouse overlooking the city. Every evening he returned to the same silent rooms. No wife. No children. No genuine friendships. Only assistants, executives, lawyers, and investors. People wanted access to him. People wanted opportunities from him. People wanted his influence. Very few wanted Alexander himself. The loneliness had become so normal that he barely noticed it anymore. Until certain moments. Like birthdays. Or holidays. Or nights when he looked across the city and saw apartment windows glowing with families gathered around dinner tables. Those moments reminded him of everything money couldn't buy. His loneliness wasn't new. It began years earlier. Before the fame. Before the billion-dollar company. Before magazine covers. Back when he was just a young entrepreneur struggling to build something meaningful. At 27, Alexander had fallen deeply in love. Her name was Victoria. She believed in him before anyone else did. Or so he thought. For 3 years they built dreams together. Then his company exploded in value. Investors arrived. Media attention followed. And suddenly Victoria changed. Or perhaps she had always been that way. Alexander simply hadn't seen it. The relationship became less about love and more about status. Less about connection and more about appearances. The final blow came when he discovered she had secretly been planning to leave him for another wealthy businessman. Someone with even more influence. Someone with even greater social status. The betrayal shattered him. Not because he lost her. But because he lost trust. Since then, every relationship felt transactional. Every compliment felt calculated. Every smile felt suspicious. So Alexander buried himself in work. Success became safer than vulnerability. Profit became easier than love. And year after year, his fortune grew. But his world grew smaller. Much smaller. Across the city, in a neighborhood most billionaires never visited, another life unfolded. Her name was Maya Carter. She was 32 years old. And according to many people, she was completely forgettable. At least that's what they believed. Maya rented a modest apartment above a family-owned bookstore. Her car was 12 years old. Her wardrobe was simple. She worked as director of a nonprofit community education center. Every day she helped teenagers prepare for college, careers, and life. The work wasn't glamorous. The pay certainly wasn't impressive. But Maya loved it. Because changing one life mattered more to her than impressing 1,000 strangers. People often underestimated Maya. Not because she lacked intelligence. Quite the opposite. She was brilliant. The problem was that brilliance didn't always announce itself. Maya wasn't loud. She wasn't flashy. She didn't crave attention. In a world obsessed with appearances, people often overlooked quiet strength. They mistook kindness for weakness, humility for lack of ambition, patience for passivity. And Maya had experienced that misunderstanding her entire life. Growing up, she watched opportunities go to louder people, more connected people, more polished people. Yet somehow she never became bitter. Disappointed at times? Yes. Frustrated? Absolutely. But bitter? Never. Because Maya believed something her grandmother taught her as a child. The world eventually reveals who people really are. Not immediately. Not fairly. But eventually. Character always surfaced. Truth always emerged. And integrity always mattered. Even when nobody noticed. Especially when nobody noticed. Still, Maya carried wounds of her own. Years earlier she had been engaged. His name was Ryan. At first he seemed supportive. Encouraging. Loving. Then came the criticism. The subtle comments. The suggestions that she should be more ambitious. More glamorous. More impressive. More useful to his career. Eventually Ryan made his feelings clear. He wanted a partner who elevated his image. Not someone devoted to community work. Not someone content with a modest lifestyle. Not someone like Maya. The engagement ended 6 months before the wedding. The heartbreak nearly destroyed her. But it also taught her something invaluable. The right person wouldn't ask her to become someone else. The right person would value who she already was. So she stopped chasing approval. Stopped performing for acceptance. Stopped trying to earn love. And focused instead on becoming the best version of herself. She didn't know it yet. But that decision would soon change everything. The paths of Alexander Reed and Maya Carter should never have crossed. Different worlds. Different social circles. Different lifestyles. Different realities. Yet life has a strange way of ignoring expectations. It happened because of a crisis. One Friday morning, Alexander's company announced a major initiative. A $100 million community investment program. The project would fund education centers across underserved neighborhoods. The media loved the announcement. Investors applauded it. Public relations teams celebrated. But there was one problem. Nobody had actually spoken to the communities they claimed to be helping. The backlash arrived quickly. Community leaders criticized the initiative. Educators questioned its effectiveness. Journalists began asking uncomfortable questions. Alexander hated public relations disasters. Especially preventable ones. So he made an unusual decision. Instead of sending executives, he would visit several community centers personally. He wanted first-hand information. Real conversations. Real feedback. No filters. No prepared presentations. Just truth. 3 days later, Alexander walked into Maya's education center. The room buzzed with activity. Students studied. Volunteers organized materials. Tutors answered questions. The place wasn't impressive by corporate standards. Paint chipped from certain walls. Furniture showed signs of age. Technology was limited. But something else filled the building. Purpose. Energy. Hope. Alexander noticed it immediately. Then he noticed Maya. She stood at the front of a classroom explaining scholarship opportunities to a group of teenagers. No microphone. No stage. No spotlight. Yet everyone listened. Not because they had to. Because they wanted to. There was something genuine about her presence. Something rare. When the session ended, Alexander approached. "Ms. Carter?" She turned. "Yes?" "I'm Alexander Reed." Most people reacted dramatically when hearing his name. Maya didn't. Oh. You're the CEO. No excitement. No nervousness. No attempt to impress him. Just a simple observation. Alexander blinked. It was surprisingly refreshing. That's usually the reaction. What reaction? The dramatic one. A small smile appeared. Should I faint? He laughed. Actually laughed. A genuine laugh. The first in days. Please don't. I'll do my best. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Maya gestured toward a small office. Would you like to talk? Alexander followed her. Neither realized their lives had just changed. Outside the office, students continued studying. Inside, two completely different worlds had begun colliding. And neither was prepared for what would happen next. Because the more Alexander learned about Maya, the harder it became to forget her. And the more Maya discovered about the billionaire behind the headlines, the more she realized he wasn't the man the world believed he was. But before love could grow, before trust could develop, before either could imagine a future together, a painful truth would emerge. A truth that explained why so many people had rejected Maya. And why choosing her would eventually force Alexander to risk everything he had built. A choice that would shock an entire city. And change countless lives forever. To be continued.